Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about cloud computing, secure cloud computing. And we were talking about priorities. Habib, can you give us some priorities for the next year in regards to OKTA?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our top priorities is actually continuing to grow our accreditation. So we currently hold that FedRAMP moderate ATO. We have high slated. We're in flight right now for JAB authorization, FedRAMP JAB for our ATO as well. We're in flight for IL4, looking to take down IL5 right after that. So a lot of our priorities are focused around continuing to grow that accreditation for OKTA so that we can be leveraged by more organizations within the government. I think remaining agile and increasing that agility is another priority for us. So, you know, one of the things that I think is a big win for OKTA is our neutrality, right? We don't care if you want to leverage AWS, Azure, Oracle Cloud, Google Cloud. So continuing to allow and continue to develop more features to support those split workloads, like Nick was saying, where maybe part of your application is in Azure, the part of the application is in Snowflake, or some of the data is in Snowflake, and part of it's in AWS, right? You're still going to front end that with one app, but having that access across multiple platforms and continue to leverage that. I think the customer identity, the CIAM enablement is another big theme for OKTA, and continuing to grow that, allowing our federal customers to not only push that or enable other federal agencies, but civilian as well, to leverage and more smoothly interact with the government.
Sure, sure.
And I think continuing to grow our PIV and CAC support. We don't see that going anywhere. What we're starting to see now is, with, especially given COVID, CAC still reigns supreme in a lot of scenarios, but there are scenarios where we need to be able to support access without the CAC. Or without
Absolutely,
the PIV.
absolutely.
So continuing to develop that.
Sure. Let me throw it over to Karen and get some priorities for the year for what you're doing over there at the State Department.
Yeah, I would say that there's a couple of things, and all of this has really been touched on already in the program, but some of our vendors are not yet FedRAMP High, and we have FedRAMP High data, so we'll be looking forward to incorporating that. We have Microsoft Azure Government, which is high in service now, so very excited to hear that it's a priority for OKTA to go to the FedRAMP High. And then the second thing is something that's really been talked about a lot, which is we really want to enhance our data sharing, both with industry, make that easier, and also with our industry partner, with our government partners. And the government partners, of course, are Department of Homeland Security, as well as DOD and Department of Commerce. And so that whole data sharing is a really important piece, because right now we do that manually in a lot of contexts because it's on different networks. And so we're very excited about our colleagues over at DOD potentially using cloud, and that will make that a lot easier for us to share that data. So those are the two main things that we're focusing on in the coming year.
Two really important ones. Paul, top two priorities at Army.
Top two, so I'll give it to you in two different frameworks. One is for my office with the Enterprise Cloud Management Office, is setting the conditions for the United States Army to gain value from cloud in the coming years. And so in order to set those conditions, we're striping our efforts across people, process, and technology. From a technology standpoint, it's bringing the common services to bear that everyone needs to function in a cloud environment, the standard tools for building software, and the common tools that we need to manage our data. And so those three pieces are really the foundational technologies that we need to bring to bear, and understanding that it's going to change our processes for how we acquire and build in-field software to allow our soldiers to be more lethal and more ready in the battlefield. And then finally, for the third point is the people, we can't outsource everything. We need to establish the core competency to be able to fight and win in a digital age. And so my take on the data is the new ammunition kind of framework that people had is data is the ammunition, software is the weapon system, and every single soldier needs to be able to put rounds on target. And so we need to set the conditions for that vision to become true.
Every single soldier needs to be a cloud warrior, right? Joe, top 2 priorities for Verizon.
I think without a doubt, the focus for Verizon is going to be 5G. 5G is out now. It's going to continue to expand. It's going to allow customers to provide security, the low latency, like I said, the multi-edge architecture. And now it used to be that you had your workstation, you had a cloud, and it wasn't responsive. There was a lot of latency. Now with our edge technology, we're bringing that down, collapsing that down, leveraging the 5G capabilities. So now you could do virtual desktop through the cloud. Another solution we're deploying that we're focused on is software-defined perimeter. The software-defined perimeter, what we're doing now is we're getting into a much more zero architecture, zero trust model for how the user access the application. It used to be VPN. They had to get a VPN, they'd get access to the entire network. The software-defined perimeter, now we have application, point-to-point access control. We're also leveraging quantum safe technology, so trying to look forward to the future about some of the potential vulnerabilities of our current crypto. So by leveraging the quantum safe crypto, we address that. And then 5G is going to enable things like augmented reality, supported training, immersive VR engagement scenarios. We're already working with some of our DoD partners to look at how that could affect and enhance their ability to train. Autonomous UAV monitoring, to get into an artificial intelligence aspect here, which relies on a lot of data being passed around. So with the 5G, we can pass that data. We have the bandwidth. And then with our State Department colleagues, they have their departments dispersed across the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we're addressing those requirements is by leveraging you can do 5G private, which means you can stand it up in a building or in a campus, and then that would then leverage to provide the service as well as going through the network to get to the resources. So that's what Verizon is focused on.
A lot of priorities in the coming year, it sounds like. All right, we're gonna start wrapping it up here, Nick. You're gonna do a combo platter. You're gonna give me a quick top priority and then paint a picture of the future. What does it look like as you all look over the horizon there in regards to where Snowflake sits?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. So our priority is to bring Snowflake and all of our technology to bear for the federal government. There's a lot of small dots in that, a lot of bullets, but primarily, win the fight for FedRAMP moderate and get that on our plaque. Then immediately move into high, IL4, IL5, and hopefully, all the way up to C2S and SC2S. As far as the future for us, we really want to bring collaboration to the federal government. We're in most of the major regions and clouds that they're in: Azure Government, AWS GovCloud here, hopefully by the end of the year, AWS, GCP, and Azure Commercial Clouds. So enabling our different government partners to meet the intent of HR 1770, the Open Government Data Act, share that data with the public, but also with each other to make the government more effective, more efficient, and of course, to make the DoD more lethal. That's what Snowflake wants.
Outstanding. Habib, let's throw it over to you. What does the future look like in regards to Akka?
Yeah, I think we see 3 things: increased interoperability with the software ecosystem out there and continuing to grow that. I think we're headed towards increased automation and being able to standardize and programmatically affect some of the changes we've talked about throughout the program. And I know one big theme for us is achieving a true passwordless scenario, so that no compromise in security, but we know who the user is and we can let them in with as frictionless an experience as possible. So at the end of the day, right, make the easy stuff easy and make the hard stuff possible.
Sounds pretty simple. I'm sure it's a lot more complex than that. Joe, you talked about 5G, you talked about micro-segmentation. What's it look like around the corner, over the hill, so to speak? What's cooking over there in the labs at Verizon?
Again, I mentioned, if you mentioned 5G, we have different bandwidth segments that we can deploy to address the needs of the customer. So, and that's ready today. It's being deployed out across the cities. We have some of our Army teams and the DoD teams that are deploying 5G technology. I think the edge technology is really going to make a major impact in addressing the latency, which will allow customers to expand even more of their IT infrastructure to the cloud and not have the, and not worry with latency. I know, and with our GSA partner Ashley, I wanted to, the FedRAMP prospect, we have definitely seen that being a smoother process than it had been. So we're working with our customers to get move things through. We do have FedRAMP High for some technologies, and different ones of our solutions are at different levels of FedRAMP.
It does certainly seem like a lot of agencies are drifting towards a FedRAMP High type requirement these days. I'm sure, Ashley, you're seeing a lot of that. We just heard about that from the State Department. You're seeing that across a lot of the civilian agencies, certainly over at DoD, in regards to their environments. Why don't you give us a picture of the future, right? You guys are working on a whole bunch of stuff over there right now that you're going to land. Hey, well, what does it look like in a couple of years? What's the anticipation once you get all this automation in place, et cetera, take a lot of these ideation ideas and implement them? What's that experience and your anticipation, sort of your goal in a couple of years? What does it feel like then?
Sure. So, I mean, today we have about, we're on the cusp of 200, authorized cloud products within the FedRAMP marketplace. And really, it's my dream to just see that number exponentially grow year after year, through our automation efforts, bringing the community together to work together, through the training and guidance that we're providing to agencies and cloud service providers. So, I mean, when we can authorize more of these cloud service providers to work with federal agencies and come through, FedRAMP's, front door, we make it easier for other agencies to reuse those security authorization materials and modernize their technology. So when agencies modernize, they can fulfill their missions and faster and more effectively. And FedRAMP, we want to be an enabler of that and continue receiving feedback from our stakeholders, improving where we can, and really focusing on driving those authorization timelines down.
Right, and I think that's music to a lot of people's ears. I know every year it gets better and better. You come up with continual creative ways to do that, and keep fighting the good fight in regards to implementing, get from 200 to 400 to 1,000. Right, I think that's what everyone would love to see. Karen, how about over at State Department? What's that look like if I'm trying to export some technology? And maybe it's real sensitive technology. Perhaps it is. I know you deal with a lot of that. What does that look like in a couple of years as far as user experience?
Well, I think that, it really starts with this data sharing, because if we can data share effectively with other government agencies, then we can do a lot better in terms of quickly adjudicating these licenses, because everybody has to weigh in on whether or not a license gets adjudicated. And so I envision this world where all government agencies can do a better job of sharing their data, and we can seamlessly and securely share the data, cloud agnostic, won't matter, what cloud you're using, and everyone has access to everything they need across the government to meet the mission. And what that means to the industry is that they can get that service more quickly, and we can compete in this global marketplace in terms of, what we work with, which is things on the United States munitions list. But this is broadly based. It matters to everything. And our ability to share this data and to get data more quickly and to interact with our customer more quickly and more effortlessly, and the idea of this frictionless experience that Habib talked about, and OKTA, is sort of the first piece of this for us. It has been game changing, the ability to just get in and have access to what you need. And so I just see more of that kind of frictionless, seamless experience, but still having the security that is so important.
That great user experience that everyone is looking for, right? No matter if you're seeking any kind of a benefit or trying to export, sensitive technology, et cetera. Paul, what does the future look like for the Army? If we're looking at this in a couple of 3 years, what does it look like in regards to enabling cloud capabilities for the warfighter?
Well, Luke, we really have a strategic vision for how we're going to be leveraging cloud, and we capture it in our ability to deliver digital overmatch to the United States Army. And that really means that the Army is masters at the ability to compete and win in a digital age. And we codify that in being better armed, more skillful, and stronger than our adversaries and your peer competitors. And we capture that in 6 really strategic objectives that we articulate in the cloud plan. But the first and foremost is to accelerate data-driven decision-making. And this means that we need to know precisely all data, where it's being created, what value it could provide, our ability to access it securely, that those that should have it can get it, and those that shouldn't cannot. And we also need to have the ability to be able to then decrease our time to field solutions, right? So the information that we glean from that data, what if that begets essentially a new capability that needs to be delivered? We need to be able to decrease our time to field solutions. The third being is therefore the security accreditation process has to become optimized and modernized and automated, quite frankly, in order for us to have guardrails that we establish where anything that meets a given threshold can move into operations and do so securely and be able to be managed in that operational environment so it provides the value that it needs. The fourth being is that we need to reestablish, as I said before, the core competency of cloud design principles. A lot of the opportunity of the cloud that Habib talked about of applications in various environments and data in other environments is that's a design challenge. You have to understand the value and the opportunity of those various technologies and use the right tool for the right job. And if we don't have that core competency, then we're not going to be able to do that. The fifth being is designing software and really our processes to be adaptive. We've learned this from COVID, is that what we think is the case may not be the case tomorrow. And so how are we designing ourselves, our organizations, our processes, and even our technology to be resilient and adaptive to this ever dynamic world? And then finally, the sixth is our ability to be accountable to ourselves. We have taxpayers that we need to be accountable to, and how we're being most effective and efficient for the mission that we've been charged to deliver, but also the resources that we've been given and entrusted with to deliver that value efficiently. So those are our 6 objectives and what we see as our strategic vision moving forward.
Great way to wrap it up. I want to thank our guests today for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us for the program. I'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank you, the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.